Hey guys, welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial podcast, the podcast where we talk to the people that know Lawrenceville best. As always, I'm your host, Nate McGill. Today on the show, we've got a two-parter, and it's all about moms. First, we are talking to Mama Love. That's the mom of Chairwoman Nicole Love Hendrickson at Gwinnett County. And then after that, we're going to talk to Chuck Warbington, City Manager of Lawrenceville, and his mother. So it's a two-parter. So we're going to jump right into the first part with Mama Love and Nicole Love Hendrickson, talking all about Mother's Day. Let's hop right in. All right, guys, here we go. Chairwoman,
yes.
Why don't you introduce your mother?
Well, hi, Nathaniel.
I'm
so good to be back.
I know, it is. It's great to be back.
This time, I'm bringing Mama Love with me.
Yep,
Yes.
the real boss.
The real boss and matriarch. So excited to introduce Mama Love, a.k.a. Robin Love.
Mama Love.
Mama
Good morning.
Love is here
Good
with
morning.
us. Say hello, Mama.
Hello.
Yes, it's so wonderful to have you guys here. And
Thank you.
Celebrate Mother's Day. There's no better way that we could think of than to talk about moms.
Yes, talk about moms,
Right?
talk about motherhood, talk about all the things
Yeah.
related to being
A mom.
Awesome mom.
Yeah, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your mother?
Yeah, so my mom was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes.
And she had 4 children, 2 sets of twins,
Wow, it's
2 years
amazing.
apart, which means that essentially she was raising 4 kids under the age of 4.
Yes.
And
You have a twin sister,
So I have a twin sister.
and then you have a pair of brothers, right?
And I have
Correct.
twin brothers who are 2 years younger than us.
Wow.
And my mom raised both of us. And she always tells the story about, when she found out she was having twins the first time, how excited she was. And then when she found out the second time, she did not believe
No.
the doctor.
I cried.
Must be something in the water in Rhode Island, do you think?
Well, my mom has 2 sets of twins.
Okay, yeah.
But hers are fraternal.
Oh,
Yeah. I have identical. She had fraternal twins.
and identical. The odds of identical are pretty
Yeah.
wild,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And my mom did it all natural. Like
Yes.
'cause
Yeah.
she was a teen when she had me and my sister, and
Oh,
then she was
wow.
20 when she had my brothers. And at the time, she wasn't exploring any fertility drugs or
None of
nothing.
that.
So that was all natural. So the odds of that happening and having 2 sets back to back was something.
Well, I mean, that couldn't have been easy either at that young age. Why don't you just tell us a little bit what was in your
Well,
mind back then?
Back then, luckily I came from a family of siblings, 11 siblings.
Yeah, right.
So I've had a lot of help with the children raising them.
Sure.
So that was important to me that they were my backbone.
Yeah.
Like my sister Linda, she was always there for me. My mom. So I was lucky to have them
Right.
in my life to help me with the twins.
It takes a
Their
village, as they say, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Because their dad was away in the military, so he wasn't really
I
around
see.
as much. So
Yeah.
my siblings and my mom were my backbone to help raise the twins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she was married at a young age, but as soon as my dad enlisted, then she was essentially on her own. And I don't think my grandmother wanted the kids to go away overseas.
No, she didn't.
Right.
So she stayed put, and my dad was overseas, and so my mom was raising all of us on her own. And she's absolutely right. We had a village. We had aunts, uncles, and my grandparents raising us. My
Yeah.
dad's mom helped, and my mom's mom.
So it must have been very tough to move away from family for you, too.
Oh, it was. It really was. But when I left Rhode Island, it was right after college, and I moved to Maryland first.
That's
and
right.
then came down to Georgia, and I started my family well after I was pretty established with my career.
Right.
And it wasn't until I had my son, I realized how much I needed a village.
Right.
And how much I needed my mom, and how much I needed that same support system. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And so when did you come to Georgia?
I've been here 7 years.
7 years. Okay.
Yes.
She came
I
to
did.
Georgia 7 years ago.
Yeah.
7 years ago, yeah.
Yeah,
And I really like it.
Yeah. Well, it's warmer,
Yes,
for sure.
it's better for my arthritis.
Yeah, yes, it is. And we have, I think it's just it's a great place for families. It's a great place to grow up. I mean, you know all about it. I mean, your daughter happens to run a really big county in Georgia.
Yes.
What was
Gwinnett
in your
County.
mind when she was going to run for this?
I was so excited.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I said, she's really going to do this.
Yeah.
That's a big step to take on.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, and to be the first Black American woman
Yeah, it's history.
for this challenge. It is history.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so proud, so pleased, and just excited to have her doing this.
I mean, the responsibility I can't even fathom that you have on your shoulders daily. You're running with a budget of $2 billion with the B.
$2.5 billion.
$2.5 billion.
2.5?
I stand corrected.
Wow.
$2.5 billion. Over 1 million people in Gwinnett County here, and just challenges day in and day out. That takes a lot of resiliency. That takes a lot of bounce back. That takes a lot of character traits that you can't learn in college.
Absolutely.
A lot of those come from family, come from your mother, I would imagine.
And
Yes.
we don't have, I'm the first politician in our family. I'm the first
Very
person
first.
ever to run for office in my family. So this was very new for all of us. And, but I felt like I was battle tested.
Yeah.
And, having the upbringing that I have and understanding how communities work, our family was, very involved in the community. In fact, my mom, she used to coach little league cheerleading.
Wow.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
she was a daycare professional. So she was always involved in the community.
Community,
We were always involved
always.
in our community. So we know what it meant to give back. And, we also always had that social support network that always supported our family as well. And my mom being a single mom and raising 4 children on her own, she relied heavily on our community.
I sure did.
And so
I did.
that followed me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you had to learn some lessons from your mom, from your aunt, from other just family members, just your community as a whole. Anything stand out as like one of those big takeaways?
Yeah, just, always being in the midst of neighbors and building that sense of community through our neighborhood, the block parties. The neighbors helped raise us, my brothers. I would say that our neighborhood helped to raise a lot of, our childhood was
Right.
all
Yes.
about the block parties
Yes,
and the
yes.
neighborhoods and going to the neighbors' homes.
And every parent knew each child on that block.
Right.
You know,
So you had
they would get involved if they saw something that wasn't right.
Yeah.
they would.
They were
step in.
disciplined.
Well,
They were
it was-
disciplined.
one mama was all the mamas.
One
so
mama was all
one
the
phone
mamas.
call and you were
that
a
was it.
goner. Like if you,
My mom always got phone calls from my brothers,
for my
not for
boys.
us, not
I mean,
for me and my sister. But
this
my
was the
brothers.
first
Boys.
internet was moms and telephones. It's
right.
like, where's Nicole at? Oh,
Right.
she's over here. All right,
Oh,
what's she
yes.
doing? She ain't doing nothing good
Oh,
right
well,
now.
I remember when the lights went off and we were not home. She would go door to door, knocking out. She would
Where-
yell our names.
Yeah.
Embarrass them.
Embarrassing me.
Yeah, you knew. It's so amazing. It's just crazy to think that way. I don't hardly even let my kids out of the door,
Yeah.
and I remember just being a
Nowadays,
kid
it's
and
hard to do that,
and you
yeah.
would just go, and then the sun started to set. You better run back to the house.
Oh,
When the
Absolutely.
street lights came on, you had to be in the house.
That's right. That's the rules. You knew where the line was, and man,
Yes.
you better listen to mom. That's for sure. That's a good one.
Yes.
So, coming from Providence, Rhode Island, to Georgia, maybe just share a little bit about your journey for folks who maybe haven't had the opportunity to hear your story.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island, and went to school all the way up through college. I was actually the first person in my entire family to graduate college and earn a degree, and very proud of myself for that. But I soon learned that opportunities were going to be outside of the state, and I was going to venture and explore what life would be like outside of Rhode Island, and having to leave my
Sure.
family and be bold and brave and see what was out there. And so I moved to Maryland, where I worked for the school system as a crisis intervention counselor, and My educational background was in human and family development and psychology, and I wanted to work with kids. I've always had a passion to work with kids. My mom always worked with youth.
Yeah, right.
That was just a passion of mine. I think that piece I got from my mom.
That's great.
And just really wanted to support my community in a way that I was always supported in my family and my community. And I worked for Baltimore County Public Schools as a counselor. There was no amount of training and education and even lived experiences that prepared me for what I experienced in Baltimore, because a lot of the kids came from very turbulent families and communities. And so that signaled to me that there was something bigger for me to do. And I decided to go back to school to get my degree in social work because I was doing more social work than I was counseling even at the school system. I decided to go to the University of Georgia, go Dogs, to get my master's degree in the School of Social Work. So I enlisted in the School of Social Work at the University of Georgia, and at the time, it's one of the best school social works in the state of Georgia, school social work programs. And during my studies, I landed in Gwinnett County for my second year internship, doing a 1-year practicum with the Gwinnett Coalition for Health and Human Services.
Right.
I absolutely fell in love with the community. I was studying suburban poverty, understanding the homeless issues, and doing research on how counties like Gwinnett have shifted from a suburban metropolis to having urban issues like homelessness and food insecurity. And I was intrigued, and all of my passion centered around how can I help people in the suburban Gwinnett deal with the issues of urbanism. And I just fell in love with this community and decided to plant my seeds here, and got offered the job right after graduating my second year practicum, and served with the coalition for 8 years before transitioning over to the county. And my predecessor hired me to run the outreach and engagement program. Very proud of that program, and helping to build bridges with our diverse stakeholders, our communities, and build that bridge and enhance that relationship with the communities that they serve with local government. And I fell in love with that role too. And when it was the time where Charlotte, who was my predecessor, Charlotte Nash, decided she wasn't going to run for office, my first thought wasn't to throw my name in the hat. It actually took quite some time for me to make a decision after many people approached me and said, you really should consider, you've been involved in this community, you know the ins and outs, you know the issues, you know the needs, you've worked in local government, you worked under Charlotte. Who better to serve the people than somebody who's already been doing the work? And I said, let me give that some thought. And, talked about it with my family, and they said, everything you've done in your career really has prepared you for this path. So why not at least give it a shot?
Well, your natural life path tends to do that sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we don't think about our lived experiences preparing us for these types of roles, but I feel like my lived experience and my upbringing and having to deal with adversity.
I mean,
and my heart.
You've got gifts, you got spiritual gifts, you've got a heart for people, and your perspective and personality, both of those two things coming from social work. You were looking at Gwinnett in a way that others weren't looking at Gwinnett. They were either looking at the Gwinnett that had been, the Gwinnett that I grew up in as a kid wasn't even suburban. It was country. I mean, it was rural. In the 80s, it was rural. So some of us still have the mindset of we call it country, but it's really suburban. Well, it's really urban, it's urban now. And it's transitioned so quickly. And Gwinnett is so big that it happens in pockets, it happens down corridors, it happens out of sight of different groups. And I think one of the great things about your daughter, she was able to kind of look in and see people where they were at in different subcultures all around Gwinnett.
Yes, and Gwinnett's so diverse.
That's absolutely
so
right.
Your experience kind of brought that worldview to a place in a time when really even a greater transition was happening in the country, and 2019, 2020 elections were something different.
And it's having to navigate merging that history and that past with the future. How do you bring those two worlds together in a way that people still feel like they belong? Those who grew up like you, those who grew up here, those who are products of Gwinnett County, and the newcomers who were drawn here for many different reasons, and how can we merge those two worlds? And I've been able to, I'm working still to merge those two worlds in a way that makes people feel like they belong, that this is the county, that is my county, this is my home, this is where I see a future, and this is where I want to raise my family.
Yeah, I think growing where you're planted and letting people know that that's what we need to do. If there's things we don't like, we need to be the people to change those things.
Absolutely.
And it starts off with ourselves. It starts off with those lessons that we learn from our moms, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, one of the the quotes that I've heard coming from you and you, like this, I want to talk about this idea of it's okay to not be okay. What does that mean to you guys? Where did that come from?
So I would say for me, because we didn't always have everything. We grew up poor. We grew up and, we lived with other family members. We grew up, in communities where we didn't always have access to everything and the best. And my mom did what she could to make sure she could provide for us. And sometimes it was tough and having to make ends meet, but recognizing that, that is okay. We learned from that. We bounce back. And, sometimes I find myself in a place where I can't always be everything to everyone, and that is okay.
That's okay.
And that is okay.
That is okay.
That is okay. And this too shall pass. That's what I always say. You get in a certain situation and you feel like, oh, what's going to happen next? Where am I going to go from here? But it's okay.
Sometimes you want to give up, but you realize that, we have a strong faith, and we have people that are here to support us, and it is really okay to not always be okay.
That's right. That
You
is
have to
absolutely
sometimes
right.
embrace that, and people need to see that that's what makes you human, and we're all human.
We are all human, and we all have those moments.
Yeah.
And in those moments, we call our mom, usually. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've
absolutely-
found myself
Right.
in struggling, and I will call my mom and say, hey, I need some help here, whether it be with Caden or, hey, can you come cook? Can you come help around the house? And, sometimes you feel like.
And mamas love those calls, don't
Yes. I absolutely miss calling my mom.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would call her every day. Then when she started declining, I would go over there every day after work and take care of her. I was like her caretaker. And I wouldn't give that up for the world.
Oh, moms are something special. What does Mother's Day mean to you guys?
Yeah, Mother's Day is just about honoring our matriarchs and honoring our birth givers. I say birth giver because my son has me saved in his phone as birth giver.
Oh, no.
I'm so happy that you know that I am the one
no.
who brought you into this world. And I can take you out.
Oh, my goodness. That's right.
Brought you in this world,
But Mother's Day really is that day to really honor the people who gave us life and celebrate all that comes with being a mom. And moms come in all shapes, sizes, experiences. And
That's right.
it's just a beautiful day to honor women and our strengths, our weaknesses, our challenges, and just the beauty of what we bring to this world. And that's just giving life. No one can give life other than moms.
That's so
like
true.
I said, I miss my mom, but she gave me life.
What does Mother's Day mean to you, Mom?
Mother's Day means to be reflecting back on my childhood with my mother, raising me and doing the best she could with 12 children.
That's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of children. But my mom was strong-willed, very strong-willed, and you can go to her for anything. The whole community would go to my mom for anything.
Wow.
It's like she raised the community herself.
Wow.
Yes, she was an awesome mother. Very sweet.
And how does it look? How do you reflect on now that you have daughters who are moms?
I think it's a passionate thing. It's very beautiful to see my daughters raising children. Now that they're moms now.
Right.
And they're doing an outstanding job with their children. So I'm glad to see that, and I'm happy for them in their life that they're living, their journey they're going through, and raising their sons and daughter. Yes, it makes me happy.
Well,
Makes me smile.
Any advice that you would give to mothers out there?
Just try to always be there with an open heart, open ears. Listen. When they come to you, listen to them.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Yes.
It's such a big deal.
Really good
That is.
advice.
Yes.
Just being present with your kids is so important.
Yeah, my mom never judges, and she's a really good listener, and she never tries to say, well, maybe you should do this, and never quick to
Right.
offer advice. But she's a good listener, and I appreciate that about my mom.
Thank you.
That's so amazing. Guys, I thank you guys so much for being here for this conversation, and such a pleasure to meet Mama Love here.
Finally, you met
my
Mama
gosh,
Love.
Yes. Oh, yeah,
Mama
you're a
Love is
celebrity.
everything that she embraces. Mama Love is all about love, and she loves everybody, and she never meets a stranger.
That's why I have that name.
That's so awesome. All right. Well, as we transition, we're going to have another conversation about mothers coming up soon with Chuck Warbington and his mom. And so we're going to jump right into that. I have a piece that I would like mothers to know, because I have a mother. We all have mothers. That's something we all have in common. You had a mother somewhere. And I have to sometimes remind my mom that she doesn't have to do anything. She just needs to be mom. And sometimes for mothers, that's the most important thing I think that they can do, is just be mom. Listen, like Mama Love just said, just be open to listen and be there and be present. You don't have to do motherhood. Right. You just have to be mom. All right, guys. Back in a minute. Wasn't that so fun? Wasn't that just a great conversation? Love talking to them. All right, next up, we've got City Manager Chuck Warbington and his mother talking all about Lawrenceville back in the day and Gwinnett County way back in the day. You're going to love this part of the show. Let's jump right in. All right, we're back with the Warbingtons, longtime Gwinnetians, of course, Chuck Warbington and his mother, Betty. Welcome to the show. Chuck, can you introduce your mother to us?
I will, and I'm very happy to do so. This is my mom, Betty Warbington. Her maiden name is Leach, so it's Betty Leach Warbington. Mm-hmm. She was actually born in downtown Lawrenceville, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. You'll hear a little bit about that. Was raised in the Tucker area, and then raised myself and my brother and sister in the Hog Mountain area near the Mall of Georgia. So, long-time Gwinnetian.
The Hog Mountain area up there. Yes, indeed. Okay, well, so I heard you were born actually in the square in a clinic. Is that true?
That's true.
You can tell us a little bit about that.
It was the Kelly Clinic, and it's located at the corner of Perry and Pike.
Perry and Pike. Okay.
And the building is still there.
Oh, it is?
Mm-hmm. It's right on the corner there.
Oh, wow.
It's still there.
Wow.
So that's what my mother... my grandmother lived across the street. My grandmother and granddaddy lived across the street. So mother would come up and stay about 2 weeks before I was born. My brother was actually born there too. So she did the same thing with me that she did with my brother. So it was very convenient. Just walk across the street and have a baby.
Yeah. Not bad, right?
Right. That's
pretty good health care, even for back in the day, right? Can't complain about that. Well, Chuck, maybe talk us a little bit about growing up in Lawrenceville, growing up here in Gwinnett. What have you learned from your mom and just being here a long time as a family?
Well, first and foremost, I think what my mom especially, along with my dad, has really instilled in me is first of all, importance of family.
Yeah.
Family is very, very important. And then I would say a close second behind that is the importance of your community, your local community, and making sure that you're helping others, you know your community, and of course that is really kind of has fed me to what I'm doing as a city manager.
Right. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Obviously, other characteristics my mom has taught me is being persistent, being diligent. Hard work ethic, and if you do something, you do it right and you do it with excellence. And so all of those things, just growing up with her gentle push, sometimes hard push on academics, and the things that I did even growing up, those were things that really kind of make up who I am today.
Yeah, yeah. You must be proud of this boy, right?
Well, very, very proud.
Well, tell us a little bit about your history, because you've been in Lawrenceville a long time. Like you said, you're born on the square there, but you've been involved in a lot of things over the years in Lawrenceville. Maybe give us a little bit of that background. I know you used to teach at the preschool.
I did. I taught there for 18 years.
18 years.
18 years, and it was wonderful that, I could be there with my children when they were in preschool, and then, after they went to Decula Elementary School, I was still close by, so I didn't have to travel into Atlanta. It was
What years was that? Do you remember? Was it through the 80s?
Well, let's see.
Well, I asked because I was there at the Lawrenceville preschool in the 80s.
At the First Baptist Church?
Yeah, the First Baptist Church.
Well, I was still there.
Yeah, so I mean.
So who was your teachers?
I don't remember. Could have been you. You never know.
I remember.
No, I went to Bentonville. I lived off of Mumford Road there, right there in Lawrenceville, growing up. And so, but I remember we would come in and I'd go to preschool right there. And I remember when the fire department was like right across the street over there. And
we'd visit there.
We would walk over there. Yeah, I remember. So I do remember those moments. I mean, that was kind of, great part of childhood. There's a video rental store right up the road. I used to go rent videos up there, but I don't remember much because it was just so long ago. That's awesome. So what else? What tell us a little bit more about Lawrenceville? What kind of things were you involved with there?
Well, when I was growing up, my aunt, she worked in Lawrenceville. She was at she worked at the Colonial Theater for a while.
Oh yeah.
And then, but I would go visit her and spend the weekend in Lawrenceville, and we'd just walk all over Lawrenceville. And she did not drive, and that was what she liked about Lawrenceville. It was a walkable city, even back then.
Right.
Because she couldn't drive, and my grandmother and granddaddy, neither one could drive. So we would just walk around Lawrenceville paying bills and visiting people and going to the show and stopping at the drugstore and getting ice cream and going to Saul's, just different. And,
That's amazing.
I remember how much fun it was to walk around Lawrenceville.
Yeah, and now the theater, the Colonial Theater, is the church is in it now, right?
That's where it was located.
Right over there on the corner. We ought to get to restoring that to a revival cinema if they'll ever let it go. I will run it. Let's do it. No, so that's awesome. And you had family that goes way back in Lawrenceville. Of course, you were born there, but you even go back further. You're involved with the Gwinnett Historical Society. I mean, some amazing things that you've contributed to the community. That's where Chuck kind of gets his hometown roots and involvement, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I like being involved with the Gwinnett Historical Society, and I've been there for a little over 10 years, working as a volunteer, and it's an amazing place, and there's so much history. Anybody that wants to look for their genealogical roots, they can just go to the office there. We have massive records.
Yeah.
And they can look up their history. If it has any connection to Gwinnett County, they can find what they need.
That's amazing. All right, so Chuck, in one of our very first episodes, you talked about being ninth generation Gwinnett. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. Give us the big picture, the backstory on the family, if you will.
Yeah, so that ninth generation forefather moved to Gwinnett in 1826 from a Warbington standpoint. And it was moved from, right across the line and from the DeKalb County line into the Norcross area. But my mom's family and their roots related to Lawrenceville, and as you heard, kind of going to the depot area, and then also around the square. Just as a comment related to that, it's really kind of bringing back the walkability that we're trying to revitalize into the downtown area today. We kind of lost that over years as the car became the dominant factor.
Right.
And it's nice to know now that we have a downtown that is walkable, it's safe, and it's an enjoyable environment.
Yeah, absolutely. You really done a great job of that, and you're walking in the footsteps of some of your family members.
And so great grandparents as well as grandparents, and even with my parents as well. My parents, even though we did grow up in the Hog Mountain area, I played all my sports in Lawrenceville.
Right.
And then, as was talked about earlier with Lawrenceville First Baptist teaching preschool, I remember as a young kid going there and running around the church, and as you said, kind of walking over into the fire station as well.
Yeah.
So having that history is really important to me, because it really it emphasizes the importance of history and the importance of community. And so that's always been very important to me and my family.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. Now, what was the most interesting thing that you found working at the Historical Society? I heard you found like maybe a relative maybe you didn't know about, right?
Well, I didn't realize that my fifth great-grandfather was close friends with Elisha Wynn until I read that in some of the minutes, and that he and Elisha Wynn blazed some trails together. And so it just makes it so much more interesting. And I love the Wynn house and the property.
Right.
And that's where I volunteer more now over there.
Yeah.
Help preserve that property.
So amazing. So he was hanging out with Elisha Wynn. You were actually working and volunteering in that house quite a bit and had no idea.
No, I didn't know that.
And you discovered it just through doing the look back in history.
I found the minutes that showed that, my fifth great-grandfather and Elisha Wynn were good friends.
Wow. Carving roads. So, I mean, that's amazing. I always tell folks, I was like, I know I'm from here because I'm related to a lot of people with road names. Like, that's how we know. You got some roads named after family members, but they were actually making the paths for some of the roads to be formed, the travel routes. That's amazing. What a cool historical find there. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to do this episode primarily just because we're talking about mothers. We're talking about the importance of moms in our life and the moms that help build up some of our leaders and just the contribution that they make in our lives. It can't be. There's nothing really more important that I can think of a child growing up and those values that get instilled into a person. So maybe talk a little bit about what is Mother Day? What does that mean to you guys?
Well, I'll start. I think the importance of Mother's Day, just in general, is obviously a day to pause. And I'd encourage everybody listening to this to do pause and use that opportunity to honor your mom for that day. And, Mother's Day to me is very important because of what my mom has meant to me and our family. She has done so much for our family, sacrificed for our family, pushed us to do the things that we are doing as a family, my brother and sister and I. And, that I think it's just a great opportunity to use these days to pause and to honor and frankly say thank you for what you have meant into our life. And so I'm just so proud to have my mom here as we celebrate Mother's Day, just to kind of outline what she has meant to me. Yeah,
it's such an important job, and I'm betting you learned a lot from your mother as well. And going back, what's Mother's Day mean to you?
Well, it's very special. My mother passed away almost 40 years ago, so I love remembering her and thinking about the good times that we had. And as I was growing up, she was such a great mother, and she loved to cook, and she took good care of her family. But my grandmother was a great mom too. And so I have such great memories of my grandmother in Lawrenceville. Any
words of wisdom that you have for maybe the mothers out there watching the show?
Well, always be true to yourself, and don't let others persuade you to do something that's not what you want to do.
Right.
And just be true to yourself.
Yeah, especially as a young mother. You don't know what to do. That kid didn't come with instructions. What am I supposed to do? And there's a chorus of voices.
If you always try to do the right thing,
that's right.
It'll come out right.
There you go. That's it right there. There's There's our quotable moment. Well, going back to the Historical Society, I know it means a lot to you, and I know our history here means a lot to you. How can people get involved if they want to look up their genealogy?
Well, the office is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 2. You can just walk in. It's upstairs of the historic courthouse. It's located upstairs, and we have lots of family files, lots of genealogy books, and so there's people that are volunteering there every day on Monday, Wednesday through Friday, and they'll be glad to help anyone come in and do some family research.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. If you're from here, if you're a local, first of all, you're rare already in this the population we have today. You're rare, and it's good to know your family history and go back. I got the chance to do that with my grandpa not too long ago, a couple years ago. We were just doing the research to get his first family pin, and he is so proud of it. He puts it on his hat. He wears it. He's 92 and still doing great. So, but you love that. I think it meant so much to him to go back and learn things about the past that we just never knew. And I encourage anybody who's interested and can do that just to go check that out. Gwinnett Historical Society. Any last words, Chuck, that you have to share?
No, as I was sitting here and just kind of reminiscing in my mind of the importance my mom has had on me, I did fail to mention one item. One of the things that my mom is known for is her love for outdoors, her plants, the flowers. Her house is just immaculate. It's almost like a botanical gardens.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
That has rubbed off on me. I love being outside. I love taking care of plants. But as I thought about some of the things I do in regards to the community, the aesthetics of our community is very, very important to me. And I know I attributed that to my mom.
Wow, yeah.
Because that is the impression that people place on your community. If you have a neat, orderly, well-pleasing view of a community, it feels welcoming. People want to be there. People want to spend some time there. And that was nurtured to me growing up as a child because of the love that my mom has for the plants and the flowers and the things associated with that. So that's just another little trait that I think was instilled in me that
just rubbed off.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite flower?
Iris.
Iris.
That's my favorite. But I love all flowers. It's hard to pick one, but my mama liked irises, and so I do too.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time, joining us, talking a little bit about Mother's Day here on this episode. Guys, go love on your mom. Go tell her how much she means to you. Get on the phone right after this show. Call her. Wish her a happy Mother's Day. Guys, share this show. Share, like, and subscribe to the podcast, either on the audio feed. You can usually do that in the top right corner of most podcast players, or subscribe to the city's YouTube page so you never miss a show. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Till next time, you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.